I can pretty much guarantee you've never eaten this Egyptian delicacy. It's like a crispy rice stuffed sausage, except the casing has been replaced by a small bird. But do you know what kind of bird it is? Here's a hint. They're raised in these distinctive towers that have dotted the farmland of Egypt and many Middle Eastern countries for centuries. So what's the answer? Pigeon. Egyptians love eating pigeon because these little birds are so flavourful, and when fried they have the crispiest skin ever. They're stuffed with the most delicious rice filling that is herby, fragrant and so incredibly tasty. If you don't fancy pigeon, keep watching to learn why you should stuff other birds with this recipe. To start, I'm going to prep the star of this dish, the pigeons. These small free-range Egyptian pigeons are a different and smaller breed than the city-dwelling pigeons you're probably used to, and they weigh about 120 to 150 grams each. You can substitute them with small game birds such as wood pigeons or quails or any other small poultry, though try get them fresh rather than aged. The first step in making these tasty birds is cleaning them to get rid of most of the gamey flavours. Washing poultry can spread dangerous bacteria, so here's how I do it in a way that minimises the risk. Empty the sink, then add a large bowl and fill it with room temperature water. Add a large splash of vinegar, then turn the water off so it's not splattering everywhere. Now give the bird a bath, then rinse the cavity a few times by filling and emptying it and rubbing the inside with your hands. If the skin can easily be separated from the meat, rinse between them a few times as well. When the pigeon seems clean, move it to a colander to drain and repeat with the remaining pigeons. Though get someone to refill the bowl with clean water when it's dirty. When all the pigeons are washed, let them drain in the colander and set it aside on a plate. Next, it's time to wash some pluck or offal for the rice stuffing. We've got the heart, liver, kidneys and lungs of the pigeon, though they can just as easily be replaced with chicken liver. Fill a bowl with water and add a splash of vinegar, then give them a quick rinse and drain the water. Now the important part, thoroughly wash your hands and give the sink a good scrub with dish soap. Then use a surface cleaner to eliminate the risk of any bad bacteria surviving. And that's how you get clean game birds worthy of the incredible stuffing.
Hello, it's Obi, and I've got some news. Soft Written of the first ever Middle East ebook is finally out. Salma and I designed it from the ground up to be the perfect companion for cooking and hosting the most delicious Middle Eastern meals. Right now it is Ramadan, which is the busiest month for hosting friends and family. So we've curated a collection of tasty everyday dishes and Ramadan specialties, as well as pre-designed menus that take the stress out of planning your next dinner party. If you want to get your hands on this book and a bunch of unreleased recipes, or while supporting the channel, click the link in the description. Now back to the recipe.
There's two different stuffings made in Egypt, one with frika and one with rice, but today we're making Selma's mom's recipe, which needs Egyptian rice or medium grain rice like calrose. Other types of rice might expand too much or go a little mushy when cooked. Wash 350 grams of medium grain rice at least 3 to 4 times until the water runs clear, then move it to a sieve so it can dry fully before we knead it. Head over to the worktop and finally dice a medium onion into extremely small pieces. Next, take the liver or offal and chop that into very small pieces too, a bit smaller than a kernel of sweet corn. Now let's make the filling. Grab a stainless steel pan and place it on the stove over medium-high heat. Add 30 grams of butter and once it's melting add 3 small pieces of mastic. Let them melt briefly, then add the diced onion and saute for about 5 minutes until the onions have turned translucent. Add the chopped pieces of offal to the pan and briefly stir them, then sprinkle over a 1/4 teaspoon each of salt, black pepper, ground cardamom, then freshly grate over about 1/8 teaspoon of nutmeg. Mix that together and saute for 2 to 3 minutes until the offal changes from pink to brown, then turn off the heat. Add the washed and dried rice to the pan and then season the rice with 1½ teaspoons of salt mixed with 1 teaspoon of black pepper and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cardamom. Grate over about a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and now time for the special step that makes the rice so flavourful. This is dried mint and it has such a delicate herby flavour. Crush 1½ teaspoons of this in your palms by rubbing them over the rice, and that will break it into loads of tiny fragrant pieces, so every bite is perfectly balanced. Mix that all together really well to distribute the spices, then turn the heat to medium and toast the stuffing for 2 minutes until the mixture smells ridiculously delicious. That means that the filling is done, and it's ready to create the greatest stuffed birds of all time. Now divide the mixture into equal portions to ensure each bird gets the same amount of rice. Place a tray or plate on your prep area and add 1 portion of the stuffing. Grab a bird and start off by tucking its wings behind its back so they're held in place like this. Now to make a pocket for the filling to sit. Use your fingers to separate the skin from the breasts all the way up to the neck and around the side of both breasts. Don't be too aggressive though so the skin doesn't tear, and hopefully it should come loose and form a loose pocket like this. Now that it's separated, use a spoon or your hands to add the rice into the pocket, between the skin and breasts on both sides. Don't just add it into the cavity, it needs to be under the skin. Massage the filling so it makes its way along the breast and fills up the base of the neck with rice. Keep stuffing the pocket until the breasts have plumped up but aren't overly stuffed. Spread it out so it's even on both sides, then add any remaining filling to the cavity, and that's how you stuff a pigeon. Now it's time to seal the pigeon so the rice doesn't fall out when it's cooking. These ones already have a small hole cut into this extra flap of skin, but you can easily make one yourself with a paring knife. Tuck the feet into the hole so they come out the other side, then overlap them to create a tight seal that will stop the rice from falling out. Another way to seal them is to sew the two sides together using a toothpick. Just make sure to cut off the sharp ends. And once the pigeons are stuffed and sealed, here's what they should look like. Nice and plump without being overly filled with rice. Give them a quick once over to scrape off any loose rice, then set those stuffed pigeons aside while we prep the stock to cook them in. These pigeons will need to boil for quite some time to turn their meat tender, but the great thing is the stock that is made from boiling them is one of the greatest stocks ever. Grab a stock pot and place it on high heat, then add 1 teaspoon of clarified butter or vegetable oil. Add 3 pieces of mastic, then let them melt for 20 seconds. For aromatics, add 1 onion chopped in half, 2 bay leaves, 8 cardamom pods, and 1 teaspoon of black peppercorns. Toast aromatics for 1 minute, then pour in 3 to 4 litres of water and 1 tablespoon of salt. Bring it to a boil, then when it's ready, it's time to start adding the pigeons. You can add them right away, but for the best results, try this technique. Slowly lower them one by one into the pot, taking about 5 seconds to lower each one. That will cause the hot water to shrink the skin so they don't fill up with too much water, and the rice turns out perfect. Once all the pigeons are in the pot, top it up with more water if it's a little short, then use a strainer to skim off the scum that floats to the surface. We recently learnt this trick that gives you a really clear broth, and that's to place a napkin or kitchen towel over the stock so it can catch and absorb any remaining impurities. Once you've removed the scum or covered the stock, turn the heat to medium-low, and leave the pot to simmer for 45 minutes so the pigeons can turn real tender. When the time is up, remove and discard the kitchen towel, then check on the pigeon by trying to move a wing. If it's stiff and doesn't bend, give them another 15 minutes of simmering, then check again. When they move easily, the pigeons are finally cooked. Take them out of the pot with a slotted spoon and set them aside. You might find one has burst its skin like this. It's totally normal, and some people even prefer these ones. You'll see why in a second. You'll also have one of the richest and most flavourful stocks to harvest, so pour that through a strainer to get rid of the aromatics and loose rice. You can then use this super flavourful stock to make the greatest molokhia, which is a green leaf stew that we pretty much always make alongside pigeon in Egypt. Now to let the pigeons cool for about 10 minutes before you transform them into crispy masterpieces. And you'll do that by frying them, but first pat each one dry with some kitchen towel so it doesn't splatter in the oil. Place a frying pan on the stove on high heat and add vegetable oil to a depth of about 1 centimeter. Once the oil is heated, add a couple of pigeons breast side down and fry them for about 60 seconds. When they are golden on that side, rotate them and fry for another 60 seconds. Repeat this process 2 more times to fry the pigeon to a crispy golden brown all over. Remove the golden crispy pigeon from the pan and transfer it to a paper towel lined tray so it can drain while you fry the next 2. Any that burst open are going to develop an incredible level of crunchiness that can be really hard to resist. Plate and serve these beautiful birds while they're hot, and now let me show you how to eat them.
Alright, so there you have it, a beautiful golden pigeon. Now, it's really crispy. You can hear that. There's a specific way to eat these, so let me show you. Most of the rice is going to be along here and then on the inside in the cavity, and you've got the breasts as well over here. So, you just bite into it. That's what you do. That's what it looks like. So yeah, it's basically just rice surrounded by chicken skin or pigeon skin. Really flavorful. Obviously there are the small breasts, but we'll get to those in a second. And you just eat your way around it. The neck is all skin as well. Some people eat the bones. I don't really. So then you'll get to a point where you have something like this. These are the 2 breasts, and then you've got the 2 tiny thighs and legs over here. You simply tear the breast off like that. And that's your breast. See? Oh God, that's so good. It's the leg, the world's tiniest drumstick. Just pop in your mouth. You need to try these. Might seem strange, but I promise you, you won't regret it. Fantastic stuff. Just give it a try. You'll love it.